Chapter 1. I'm Oscar Stone. Hi, my name's Oscar. I'm 10, nearly 11, and my dad is a space pirate. Yeah, I know that's quite the claim I hear you say, but it's true. Well, kind of. His name's Lucas. He's 40-something, and I live with him half the time. He was married to Mum, but they decided to break up a few years ago. They still get along great, though, not like some divorced parents. My mate Stu, his mum and dad can't be in the same room together. I feel really sorry for him. Must be rubbish. His birthday parties, for example. 1 year with Mum, next year with Dad, and stuff like that. So I feel grateful that my folks can still chat like a normal, civilised pair of human beings. They often have a cup of tea together and always hang out at my football games. So, what makes my dad a space pirate, I hear you ask? A few things. Firstly, he wears an eye patch over his left eye. I know, how cool is that? When I was 5, I made the mistake of asking if I could see what's underneath. He made sure that I really wanted to see it and warned me that it might be a bit gross, but I said that was okay. When he showed me though, it really gave me the icks. He's got no eyeball under there, just a great big scar. Something must have sliced straight through his eye. He says that it happened years ago in a car accident, but I reckon it was an enemy's laser sword or something like that. The accident is also how he lost his leg, so now his right one ends at the knee, his prosthetic leg making up the bit that's missing. Weird, isn't it, that a one-legged man still needs to buy a full pair of shoes? But he does. His falsie, as he calls it, needs a shoe too. As if that weren't enough, he runs parties and sword fighting classes after school, all under his Lucas the Space Pirate business. They're great fun. He wears a particularly cool leather eye patch for those, and sometimes even wears a wooden leg instead of his prosthetic. He's done them for a few of my parties and for some of my mates too. I'm a bit old for them now, but I help Dad out sometimes if it's going to be a big crowd. Oscar the cabin boy, he calls me. Lastly, he talks like a pirate. Not like that Jack Sparrow bloke from those movies, but a proper, "Arr, Jim lad, pieces of 8, walk the plank" pirate accent. So when you read the bits of this story where Dad is speaking, try to do it in that kind of voice. But it's not an act. It's actually the way that he speaks all the time. He says that's just how people speak where he's from, but never really talks about where that is. Cornwall-ish, I think. Mum says that he probably grew up near Bristol, and it's not pirate talk, it's just a West Country accent. But I know the truth. I guess it just adds to the mystery. I still love it when he tells me tales of his space adventures of old. When I was little, he would tuck me up in his bed, wrap his arms around me and make me feel like the safest, most loved kid in the whole universe. Then he'd tell me how he and his crew sailed the seas of black, from one end of the verse to the other, having all kinds of crazy adventures. He's rescued alien royalty, stopped a sun from going supernova, and even won an intergalactic beauty contest. But I think that was when he still had 2 eyes and a matching pair of legs. Now he tucks me into my own bed. We chat about stuff and read a book or comic together. But if he offers, I'll always take the Pirate Dad story option. It makes me feel safe, loved, and like I have the coolest dad ever. Just don't get Mum started. She thinks that he should grow up and get a real job, or at least collect the stories in a book and make some money from his tall tales. Dad lives 15 minutes from Mum's in a funny little house in the middle of nowhere with no neighbours for miles. It belongs to a friend of his, or their family, I think. He's doing it up, slowly but surely, for not much rent a month, and the grounds that come with it are amazing. We live in the middle of a massive field and our land backs directly onto the woods. We've built shelters, camped out overnight, made tree houses, the lot. Our latest project is adding to the tree house that we built last year. We put a roof on it, made it weatherproof, and now we're looking at which tree would be the best one for a neighbouring structure. Then we'll build that and add a rope bridge between the two. My very own Ewok village. It was about a month before my 11th birthday, Sunday to be precise. Dad was telling me the tale of how he defeated the Glorn giant of Brone, a story that I'd not heard before. Me and my crew had tracked it down to its lair, deep within the old Bronian mines a few miles out from town. Now, those town folks had paid us to rid 'em of this hideous beast, 'cause it were making off with all their livestock and trash and everything in its path. This doesn't sound very pirate-like, Dad, I said. It's all a bit... what's the word? Philanthropic, noble, selfless and lovely. Nah, if it were any of those things, you'd be doing it for free, I replied with a big grin on my chops. Ah, you cheeky beggar. I had a crew to feed, you know, and ship's fuel don't grow on trees neither. Yeah, okay, fair enough. So, we'd got this beastie cornered in the mines. The path to its lair were lined with the bones of countless sheeps and the like. Me and the crew moved in, weapons drawn, and then suddenly there it were, towering over us, giving us the big growly stuff, grabbing for its bashing stick. What happened? Did you blast him to pieces? That had been the plan, but there was something more complicated going on, what revealed itself in that moment. What? What was it? The giant weren't a he. It were a she, and she were a mummy. Wrapped in bandages? No, you pickle brain. She had kids. A pair of 'em. Twins, we reckoned. Oh, right. So what did you do? We couldn't kill the kids, or mum for that matter, now that we knew the whole story. I ordered the crew to stand down, holster their weapons and back off. Thankfully, mum saw what we was doing and reacted accordingly. And how did you sort it all out? If the town hired you to get rid of the giant, how did you still manage to get paid? Remember Goryan? How could I forget? He features in most of your stories. That he does. Well, as a linguist, he managed to adapt a tongue that he knew were used in that planetary system. Weren't exactly what the giant spoke, but were close enough for him to work out a compromise. What kind of compromise? The townsfolk would leave a certain number of livestock for the giant and her young'uns in exchange for her doing jobs for the town. Anything hefty, construction, moving big old heavy things. She came in very useful when it were time to bring in the harvest, for example. A happy ending for everyone. Indeed. Her wee ones even pitched in when they were a bit older. They became good friends in the end and have lived in harmony ever. The ending to Dad's story was cut short when something made the whole house shake. A low rumble, the kind that hits you right in the chest, as if a mahoosive something had landed right next to our home. Dad moved over to the window and peered through the curtains across the back garden and towards the woods. What do you see? I asked, trying to peer around Dad's head and out into the dark. Nothing. Odd. Very odd. Almost felt like. But he didn't finish his thought, not out loud at least. It was obvious that he was worried by the sound. Although he finished off the story, it wasn't with the same energy or delight in all the silliness. He just wanted to get to the end and out into the garden to check what was going on. Good night, my boy. Sleep well. Love you to the stars and back. That bit he said with all his heart, like he did at the end of every bedtime routine. Love you more, to the stars and back twice, I replied with a cheeky grin, to which Dad smiled back, winking his remaining eye. As soon as I heard his lumpy footsteps get to the bottom of the stairs, I leapt out of bed and dashed across to the window that Dad had looked out of a few moments ago. Nothing. Then a strong beam of light sliced through the darkness, systematically working its way across from one side of our garden to the other. Dad always had a couple of big, strong torches in the house, said that we had to be able to see what might be coming at us at all times. They came in particularly handy when we were camping out in the woods. I figured that Dad was satisfied with his inspection of the perimeter as his torch turned off and he headed inside. I crept back across my room, avoiding the squeaky floorboard so that he didn't know that I was snooping. Although there wasn't some Nongonian drong troll stomping out of the woods or a clung invasion armada landing on the lawn, the noise did throw me a bit. It woke my brain up just as I would usually be winding down for the day. I couldn't sleep. I read that week's copy of the Beanics again, cover to cover, the latest Bummy versus Funky Monkey book for a third time, and still wasn't tired. I was making a start on a half-built Lego set when there was a knock at the door. It wasn't the kind of reluctant, apologetic knock that you would normally hear after dark. This was strong, bold, urgent, a daytime knock, and from someone in a hurry. That someone wanted to speak to Dad, and right bloomin' now.